Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about downsizing, not about the number of factual errors in this video, that will still be quite a large number, but in terms of cars, this is a Renault Clio and it is a small car, but it's one of the few you can buy as a hybrid. Now I'm not talking about poxy mild hybrids, this is a full-on self-charging hybrid. And the only other small cars you can really get as a hybrid are the Honda Jazz and the Toyota Yaris, and this is a fair bit sexier and a bit more chic than those cars, so I want to do a full review of this to find out if it's good, cost-efficient little car, and whether I can do the whole thing without saying Papa or Nicole, or getting run over by a Volkswagen van. Let's go. I have to admit, it has been years and years since I've driven a Clio, and they are still hugely popular in Europe. They've made about 15 million of them in total ever. This latest version, which actually came out quite a few years ago, but it's been updated since with this hybrid, is actually lighter than the previous one, which is quite rare. It's made in Turkey and it's very, very orange. This Valencia orange paint costs an extra £700, and the only other option you can get on the Clio is £300 space saver wheel, and everything else is accessories such as floor mats and things like that, mud flaps. Otherwise you just pick your trim level and pick one of two engines. There's this 1.6 litre naturally aspirated 145 horsepower hybrid, which has got a 50 horsepower electric motor, or there's a 0.9 litre I think petrol with 90 horsepower. And that's pretty much it. Starts from 19 grand, and the hybrid costs an extra £2,600 for any version you want on top of that. This one is about 26 grand because it's in RS Line trim. So yeah, it's got these little yellow diamonds on it. It's got a few sportier bits. It's got a few more bits of kit. And it's designed to look, well, sporty. Have I said sporty enough yet? I think I probably have. Now, when Renault describes the look of the Clio, they call it sensual and seductive, which is a bit creepy for a car, to be honest. I think it's just a lump of metal and plastic, but it's slightly curvaceous, and I think it is quite a decent looking thing. And you've got these LED daytime running light signatures, which I'll stick a cutaway in because they've gone off. They're kind of C-shaped, and it's just very nice. Being an RS line, this one gets 17-inch alloy wheels. Lesser models get 16s. Other things this RS line gets includes, can't do my words, shark fin antenna. On the lower spec ones, I guess you just get a normal little whip antenna, which does look a little bit cheaper. You can only get the Clio as a 5-door these days, so gone are the days of the Clio 182s, and they're called 3-door cousins, and the hidden door handles up here. And we'll talk about the back seats later. I've left my child seats in, that's kind of accidental. Now, being a self-charging hybrid, there's no way to plug in because it's self-charging. And I know people hate self-charging, that's what everyone calls them. So it's just a regular hybrid, an HEV, not an HGV. It's definitely not that, despite the fact the hybrid weighs 300 kilos more than the non-hybrid version. It's only got a 1-point-something kilowatt hour battery, but we'll get onto that a bit more in the driving department. Now let's talk about the boot, because the regular Clio has got a class-leading boot space of nearly 400 litres, which is quite a bit bigger than a Ford Fiesta. However, because this is the hybrid, it drops down to about 300 litres for the boot space. It's all right though, it's still a useful shape. And this has got that space saver spare wheel, along with all the other bits and bobs should you need it if you break down. But yeah, it is a small car, reasonably practical one. Would be more practical if you just bought the petrol. I'm going to whip one of my child seats out, probably this one, and show you how an adult fits in. But yeah, this does just prove that you can fit a toddler seat in and a younger baby seat. How old is she? I can't remember. Is it even mine? I don't know. But anyway, there you go, 2 child seats. I'll show you the toddler one so you can see how much room a toddler has in the back of this. It is significantly less room than in something like a Renault Captur. Not significantly, it's noticeably less than in a Renault Captur, but it's still doable. Right, I'm going to hop in and show you what an adult looks like. You're not really going to want to carry adults in the back of a Clio for very long journeys. I'm 6'3", that is my driving position, and my knees are fairly well and truly rammed into virtual me spine. I've got room under the seat for my feet, and I shut the door. It does feel a tiny little bit claustrophobic. That is quite high. My toddler can't really see over that. She doesn't get car sick, but it is a little bit grey and dark in here, not helped by the fact I've got a black roof lining. Haven't got any USB plugs back here. The Isofix were easily accessible, and I have got some little red and white stitching on the armrest. Don't know if you can see that, that's an RS Line thing. And we've got fake carbon fibre effect stuff on the doors. Anyway, I'm going to show you up front because there's what appears to be quite a nice bit of technology up there, but it's not as good as it looks. I think it's fair to say the dashboard of the Clio is dominated by what looks like a really impressive tablet style display there. It's 9.3 inches, so it is much bigger than in something like a Fiesta or a Jazz, but it is quite slow to respond to your prods and touches. It feels like you're trying to run a 4K computer game on a PlayStation 1. It's just not that quick, and even things like the reversing camera, which is standard on the RS Line, is a little bit laggy, which is a bit annoying when you're parking and you're flicking between forward gears and reverse gears quite quickly, because yeah, you could have a little bit of a moment bumping into something that you thought you had space before you get to it. But anyway, it's got Android Auto and CarPlay if you plug into it. It's got a wireless charger, which is part of the Techno pack. And yeah, the RS Line gets a few extra things like that little badge on the bottom of the steering wheel. It also gets lights and vanity mirrors, which the entry-level one doesn't get. You've got physical climate control controls, which is always a good thing. And you get a reasonably sized digital dashboard, which tells you all your usual stuff, including where the power's coming from, where it's going to, and the fact that I've been getting 62 miles per gallon out of this without really trying. And because it is a regular self-charging hybrid, there aren't really that many options. There's a button there to go through some of the electric menus. There's a few driving modes, but really this isn't designed to drive on EV power alone. Just leave it in the My Sense setting, which is the default one, and it will sort itself out. But otherwise, quite like the cabin, the red stripes across there, and the seats look really nice as well. Yeah, it is nice. It does feel a tiny bit more cramped than in a Fiesta, like around your knees, left to right as a driver. You do feel your knees twatting on plastic a bit more than you would in a Fiesta, but that might just be because I'm tall. Storage is pretty good as well. We've got cup holders down there, as you can see, electronic handbrake, saves a bit of space, and the door bins are quite big for this sort of car as well. And the glove box isn't actually an afterthought. It always used to be the case on these French cars. When they made them right-hand drive, they just chucked the fuse box in the glove box and you never had any space. This one doesn't do that, and you've got quite a nice frameless rear view mirror as well, which looks quite svelte and in keeping with the whole car's theme of being chicer than a French handbag strapped to a small dog. But I'm sure you're wondering, is it a dog to drive? Let's go and find out. Right, let's go for a drive in the Renault Clio 145 horsepower hybrid. The engine fires up straight away because, as I said earlier, this isn't really about zero emissions driving, it's about reducing your overall fuel economy, giving you a taste of electric oomph. But yeah, this is obviously an automatic, it's a 6-speed auto. You can get the regular non-hybrid version as a regular manual if you want that, but to actually live with, the view out of this is pretty good. Standard modern car story though, the view out over the back corners of the car is quite restricted by those big thick pillars that you've got there. There's a lot of cows in the road ahead. Interesting, I might have to do another route. I was trying to think of a cow pun. Help me out with some funny cow puns, I'm a bit under the weather. But anyway, the ride in this, because it's got that extra 200 kilos of mass for that battery, on bumpy roads you do feel it a bit. It's kind of going ba-dump, ba-dump, but it's not the worst. It's pretty good as far as these things go. Yeah, the mirrors don't make a load of wind noise at speed, but we'll get to that. The view out, it's just very easy. It's very easy, and it just feels like a regular automatic car to drive. And you can actually pop it back into B mode, which is a one-pedal driving mode. So it will eventually slow down, not quite to a halt, but you can play that nice game that you can play in electric cars, where you lift off the accelerator at a certain time to regenerate your battery. And it does give you a little battery meter in the dash readout. Is there anything else I can talk to you about the driving while not driving? Because the road is blocked by bovine. Probably not. I'm going to turn around and go a different way. It's the first time I've heard of having to do that. Herd, beef, cows. Anyway, God, it's freezing out here. Anyway, I'm on a twisty country road. Let's talk about the electric power, because I'd say the electricity in this car is more noticeable than in the Jazz. It is really quite punchy. When you put your foot down, it certainly takes off with far more enthusiasm than you should have from a 1.6 non-turbocharged petrol engine. It's really quite punchy. I like it. It's good. It is, I have to say, probably not quite as fast as you would think overall. I mean, on paper it's 9.9 seconds to to 62 miles an hour. But yeah, it's certainly noticeably electric is what I'm trying to waffle out here really badly. Can you tell I had a massive KFC for lunch with mashed potato on the side, and now my brain has turned into actual mush. The steering is really nice and sharp, and it does grip pretty well. One downside you might have noticed then is when the petrol engine kicks in hard, it can be pretty noisy. However, it's not as bad as something with a CVT gearbox, and that's the kind of twist and go scooter gearbox that you usually get on things like the Jazz and the Yaris. In those cars, you put your foot down and the petrol engine just goes at a constant rate until your eardrums burst or you reach your desired speed. In this, it feels a little bit more natural because it's a regular gearbox really. But yeah, let's get on to some dual carriageway and we'll talk about the refinement and all that very exciting stuff. This is me getting jiggled slightly. What I said about earlier about that weight, that battery, I can feel it in my moobs. I think that's a Wet 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 song. Right, let's go up to 70 miles an hour. Motorway speeds here in the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and our king. Anyway, that's it, that's 70 miles an hour. So it doesn't take too long to get there. But now I'm there, I've got a little bit of wind whistle, but it's just a reasonably noisy cabin coming up through the tyres. All that noise you can hear is just a bit of background rumble really. It's nothing too bad, but again, I've got a funny feeling the Fiesta, probably the Jazz are quieter in that regard. But otherwise, yeah, I've mentioned MPG, doing a mix of driving. I've been getting 62 out of this without trying, which is really quite impressive. And yeah, this is a very safe car as well. It got a 5-star Euro NCAP rating when it first came out. I think it was in 2018, I think. And it is festooned with electronic safety tech. So you've got lane keep assist, you've got automatic emergency braking, there's some optional bits and pieces as well. But yeah, I'd be perfectly happy putting my family in this, and that's what I've been doing, frankly. But anyway, we've done the country roads, so I can't do my usual, oh, let's go and find out what it's like on country roads, because I've sort of told you, it handles quite nicely, but it's not as fun as the Fiesta. Yeah, but anyway, let's go back to me, in my lay-by of joy, disused cows, for an outro. So in conclusion, what do I think of the Renault Clio 145 hybrid RS Line, whatchamacallit? I really like it. As a small car, it's got more charm than a Ford Fiesta. And look at it in bright orange, it's really, really eye-catching, especially when the sun eventually comes out. Now the hybrid in this works really well, you just don't have to think about it, but you reap the rewards of a bit more torque everywhere. It feels brisker than you would think, and also it gets really good MPG without having to think about it, and obviously you don't have to plug it in. So it's really well done. It's not jerky, it's not jolty, it still rides a little bit firmer than I would have liked because of that battery, but otherwise, I really like it. Would I have it over a Fiesta? Maybe not. The Fiesta is more fun to drive and the infotainment is a bit better to my tastes, but otherwise, this is a really good thing. I'm going to give it 4 Tim Roadies out of 5, which is a terrifying thought. Anyway, hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please hit like, subscribe to the channel because there's plenty more amateur car nonsense coming soon, and go down to the comments and leave me the French word for a baguette.